Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my obeisances of Lord Srila Prabhupada. I'm so grateful to be invited today to speak, to address the devotees here at ISKCON Chicago for the monthly Sankirtan meeting. They're having monthly classes on Sankirtan, as I understand. And this is I'm very blessed to have this opportunity to glorify book distribution and the Sankirtan that's shown to us by Srila Prabhupada and bestowed to us, bestowed upon us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I'll start this. I'll start today. I'll sing this Sat Goswami Astakam, and my reason behind singing this particular song is that in 1975, His Grace Savas Prabhu actually asked the Prabhupada, how is it possible to expand book distribution? And this I heard from Parameshwar Prabhu, who's also one of the top book distributors in the United States, as many of you might know. He said that the answer that Savas told him, that Prabhupada had said to him, was that if you chant your 16 rounds attentively, and then you chant the Sat Goswami Astakam, and this way you'll be able to expand book distribution. So I'll start off today with this prayer to the 6 Goswamis who were empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to expand the Sankirtan movement. So I'll just chant the song one line. Krishna Kirtana Gananatana Paro Premamrito Bhonidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujito Shri Chaitanya Kripa Bharo Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavahantarako Bhande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuno Sat Dharma Samstapako Lokanam Hita Karino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Parara Binda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Bhande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Shri Gauranga Gunana Varnana Vido Shraddha Samrityanvito Papo Tapune Krintanu Tanubritam Govinda Gyanamrita Anandam Bhudivadharanaika Nipuno Kavalya Nishtarako Bhande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Twaktat Purnamashesha Mandalapati Shri Nimsa Dhatu Chava Bhutva Dhina Ganesha Ko Karunaya Gopina Kanta Shrito Gopi Bhava Rasamrito Bolahari Kalola Magno Muhu Bhande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Bhande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Kujat Kokila Hamsa Sara Sagana Tire Mayura Kule Nana Ratna Nibhada Mula Vitapa Shri Yukta Vrindavane Radha Krishna Mahanisam Prabhajato Jivata Dhoyo Mudha Bhande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibi Kalavasani Krito Nidrahara Vihara Kadi Vijato Cha Yanta Dhino Chayo Radha Krishna Gunasmite Madhurima Nandina Samohito Bande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Radha Kundatate Kalinda Tanaya Tire Chavam Sivate Premo Madhavasa Ashesha Dasaya Grasto Pramato Sadha Gayanto Chakada Hare Gunavaram Bhava Vibhuto Mudha Bande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako He Radhe Braja Devi Ke Chalalite He Nanda Sunukuto Shri Govardhana Kalpa Padda Patale Kalindi Vanye Kuto Gosanta Viti Sarvato Brajapure Ke Dharmaha Vivalo Mande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Mande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. Hare Krishna. So today we'll be looking at the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and particularly I wanted to share one verse with all of you. This is a verse that every book distributor should carry in their pocket. At least they should carry it on their phone. They should have it bookmarked, because in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is revealing, first of all, in his books, Srila Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada wrote that, or Prabhupada said that these books are his transcendental ecstasies. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada's purports are the condensed mercy of Srila Prabhupada. That Prabhupada would wake up at 1 a.m. every single day, and he would put the best of himself in these books for us to have. He was thinking of every single one of you. He was thinking of every single conditioned soul for the next 10,000 years and how he will be able to guide them personally through his books. So we look at this verse in the 10th canto. Now, to provide some context, the 10th canto up to chapter 13 was the last part of the Bhagavatam that was dictated by Srila Prabhupada before he departed from this world. So for us to understand how profound these purports are, especially these last purports, Prabhupada was bedridden. He hadn't eaten in months. In months he had gone without eating. He was emaciated. He was only skin and bones. But we see Prabhupada was very lucid, and he continued to instruct us and guide us through his purports. So this particular verse, it's in the section, the prayers of the demigods, chapter 2, 10th canto, and this is text number 37. And Prabhupada gives an amazing purport here, and I'll read the verse in purport, and then I'll also just point out exactly which section of this purport is particularly relevant for those engaged in the service of book distribution. So the verse goes like this. Shrivan Grinam Samsmarayam Chachitayan Nanami Rupani Cha Mangalani Te Kriyasu Yaschat Charanara Vindayor Aveshitas Chaitana Bhavakalpate. Translation. Even while engaged in various activities, devotees whose minds are completely absorbed at your lotus feet, and who constantly hear, chant, contemplate, and cause others to remember your transcendental names, forms are always on the transcendental platform, and thus they can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport. How Bhakti-Yoga can be practiced is explained in this verse. Srila Rupa Goswami has said that anyone who has dedicated his life to the service of the Lord, Iha Yasya Hare Dhasye, by his activities, his mind, and words, Karmana Manasa Gira, may stay in any condition of life, Nikala Vapi Yhalvasto, too, and yet is no longer actually conditioned, but is liberated. Jivan mukta se uchate. Even though such a devotee is in a material body, he has nothing to do with this body, for he is transcendentally situated. Narai na para sarve na kushtana bibhyati. Because a devotee is engaged in transcendental activities, he is not afraid of being materially embodied. Illustrating this liberated position, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed, Mama janmani janmanishware bhavata bhakti rahitapitoyi. All I want is your causeless devotional service in my life, birth at the birth. Shashastika 4. Even if a devotee, by the will of the Supreme Lord, takes birth in this material world, he continues his devotional service. When King Bharata made a mistake and in his next life became a deer, his devotional service did not stop. Although some slight chastisement was given to him because of his negligence, Narada Muni says that even if one falls from the platform of devotional service, he is not lost. Whereas non-devotees are lost entirely because they are not engaged in service. Bhagavad Gita 9:14 therefore recommends that one always engage in at least chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantaschadrita vrataha namasyantastamam bhaktya nikta yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, the great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. One should not give up the process of devotional service, which is performed in 9 different ways: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada, Sevanam, etc. The most important process is hearing, Shravanam, from the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, the spiritual master, the saintly acharyas in the Vedic literature. Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, Bhakya, Chitete, Karya, Aikya. We should not hear the commentaries and explanations of the non-devotees, but this is strictly forbidden by Srila Sanatana Goswami, who quotes from the Padma Purana, Vaishnava ko girnam putta hari katamritam shravanam naiva kartavyam sapochistam yatapayah. We should strictly follow this injunction and never try to hear from Mayavadis, impersonalists, voidists, politicians, or so-called scholars. Strictly avoiding such inauspicious association, we should simply hear from pure devotees. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore recommends Sri Guru Parasraya. One must seek shelter at the lotus feet of a pure devotee who can be one's guru. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises that a guru is one who strictly follows the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. Yare theke tare kahe Krishna Upadesh. A juggler, a magician, or one who speaks nonsense as an academic career is not a guru. Rather, a guru is one who represents Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's instructions as it is. Shravana is very important. One must hear from the Vaishnava Sadhu, Guru, and Shastra. Okay, so now, if all of you have not heard one word I've said, it's okay. But at this point, I would humbly ask if everyone can open their ears and just hear this last paragraph. Because Prabhupada here gives the full nectar. Well, he's been given the nectar already, but here he really lays it in. He says, the word kriyasu, meaning by manual labor or by work, is important in this verse. One should engage in practical service to the Lord. In our Krishna consciousness movement, all our activities are concentrated upon distributing Krishna literature. This is very important. One may approach any person and induce him to read Krishna literature, so that in the future he may also become a devotee. Such activities are recommended in this verse. Kriyasu yascha charanada vindayo. Such activities will always remind the devotees of Lord Krishna's lotus feet, of the Lord's lotus feet. By fully concentrating on distributing books for Krishna, one is fully absorbed in Krishna. This is samadhi. Om Anghyanatamindasya Garanjana Salakaya Chaturur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sabetam Sabidutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Shcha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulang Hayate Girim Yakripa Tamam Bande Shigurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So that's an amazing ending to that purport. Srila Prabhupada is saying here that all our activities in this Krishna conscious movement are concentrated upon distributing Krishna literature. So there's this saying that Srila Prabhupada had coined or had said, it was from someone else, but Prabhupada had mentioned it. Books are the basis was one of the points. Utility is a principle. Anybody ever remember the other 2 points? Purity is a force, and there's one other point. But books are the basis is a point he said. So books are the basis. It's may seem like a very simple point, but it's a very profound point at the same time. Because Prabhupada, he wrote these books, and he said that these books will be the law books for the next 10,000 years in this Krishna consciousness movement. Which means that everything that we do will ultimately be based upon the instructions that Prabhupada has left in his books. And so this means that the books have to be available. This means that anybody who comes into this society, into the association of devotees, should know Prabhupada's books. They should study them thoroughly, repeatedly, because these books will give people the proper knowledge, what to do, what not to do, how to act, how not to act, what to look for in devotional service, what services they can engage in. All this is given in Srila Prabhupada's books. As I mentioned in the beginning, Srila Prabhupada said, I put the best of myself in these books. So therefore, if also we want to get Prabhupada's association, the way to do it is by reading his books. And when we get Prabhupada's association, then our intelligence becomes purified. In one purport in the Srimad-Bhagavatam 2nd canto, Srila Prabhupada writes that Bhagavad Gita is Vedic intelligence. Also, Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita that he who studies the sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence. So we have this material body, and we know the body is composed of 8 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Now that's the hardware. And the software, you can say, is in the mind, intelligence, and the ego. Hardware are the different elements we have. But so we have this machine, and this machine has a special function. The special function of this machine is that we can become self-realized with this machine that we have. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam 11th canto, there's a verse, Labhasu dhulabam idam bahu sambhavante, manusyam artha dhamma nityam api hadira, turnam yateta napatit anumritu yavanishriya sai visaya kalusavatatsya. So it mentions in this verse, Labhasu dhulabam, that this human form of life is very rarely attained. And as we know, it's mentioned in the Upanishads that there's 8,400,000 different species of life. But then we finally come to the human form of life, and we have the opportunity in this human form of life that we can attain artadam, which means our greatest good, our greatest fortune. We can be reestablished in our actual position. We're servants of Krishna. That's who we are. That means eternally we're servants of Krishna. Now, because we've been covered over in this material world, with this material consciousness, we're thinking we're something else. Like for me, I'm in big time illusion. I'm thinking I'm a 27-year-old Dominican boy, and And sometimes I'm in heavy illusion. I may look at myself in the mirror and think, oh, I'm a handsome boy, and etc. etc. But that's just illusion. That is not actually who we are. Who we actually are is a spirit soul. Who we actually are is an eternal servant to Krishna. And so reading Prabhupada's books every day will constantly remind us of this. Prabhupada mentions that repetition is the mother of learning. And because we're in Kali Yuga means memory is diminished. It means memory is short term. We have short term memory loss. If I ask you, Davik Prabhu, can you remember what you were doing last week at the same exact time? Probably not. Maybe you have a roundabout idea, but if I ask you exactly what were you doing exactly at this time last week, you wouldn't be able to tell me. It means memory is very less. Previously, in ages bygone or in ages of yore, as they say, the days of yore, people were shrutidars. There were no need for books. People would just hear things one time and they would remember it for the rest of their lives. But in Kali Yuga means that now the body's potencies decrease. They say up to 100 years, but who really lives up to 100 years? I mean, I'll be surprised if I live up to 50, the way I was raised and brought up and the way I'm living my life. And so that means we have a very short amount of time. And in the Bhagavatam, it gives a breakdown. Out of 50 years, you spend half of that sleeping. So, out of 100 years, you spend half of that sleeping. So automatically that's diminished to 50. You may spend a third of that eating. So automatically that's diminished another only 20 years. And then out of those 20, you spend, maybe 10 years are wasted in youth where you don't know anything. So in reality, it comes down to only about 10 years that you actually have to practice Krishna consciousness. 10 years of time, if you really look at it. So then this Krishna consciousness, this time that we do have available, it should be intense. It should be focus, effort. We should be, the alarm should be going off. We're right here where we are right now in Stuyvesant Falls, New York. There's a firehouse right to the right of us, right to the, a little bit behind us. So sometimes the alarm goes off. Woo, 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 woo. That means there's a fire somewhere. So we should be feeling like that. We should be feeling like we're in a fire, that this material consciousness, this materialistic lifestyle is consuming us. So we should be feeling like I need to take this Krishna consciousness. I need to infuse my life with bhakti as much as possible, as soon as possible, because we don't know. Pariksha Maharaj had 7 days. Now that's a blessing, actually, a blessing in disguise. He was told he had 7 days to live. Even Katvanga Maharaj, he was told you have 1 moment to live. And in that 1 moment, he became fully Krishna conscious. But for us, we don't know how much time is left. We don't know we have 7 seconds, 7 minutes, 7 days, or 7 years. It's unpredictable, this Kali Yuga. And our lifespans are unpredictable. Now one may be an illusion thinking, okay, maybe I'll last another 50 years and things will go on merrily, life will be happy. But in reality, that's not the case. Every second we're experiencing trouble. These bodies, the 3 kleshas are constantly working on us. The mind giving us trouble, mind and body, other living entities, and the weather. Since we've been on traveling Sankirtan, Navina Nehru Prabhu and myself, now in upstate New York, it's been kind of cold some days. A few days ago, the temperature got to almost just above freezing. And we're sleeping in the van and it's frigid. And so we wake up in the morning, we have to take a bath. And we might not, if we're not anywhere near any devotees, we just take a bath in the back of the van and the water is frigid and it's cold outside and it's cold water. And we're just like, okay, we have to do it. This is austerity. But we're constantly being, facing trouble from these different elements outside. So therefore, anyone who thinks they're in happiness in the material world is actually an illusion. So these books, Srila Prabhupada is constantly reminding us of this. And then it's not that it's all bad, but he's reminding us that real happiness is in the spiritual world. Satchidananda Vigraha, that is our eternal constitution. Sat, we're eternal. Chit, we're full of knowledge. Ananda, we're full of bliss in our real position. So therefore, Prabhupada and their acharyas, they're advising us to invest our time, invest our energy into the eternal, and do as least as possible in the temporary. Because in the material world, if we try to find happiness here, we'll just be disappointed. We're meeting so many students now, and we ask them, what is your aspiration in life? In Albany, we were just meeting so many students who are studying cybersecurity, pre-med, business administration. But even if they would become the most wealthiest person in this world, they will not find happiness there. Just recently in New York City, there was a tragedy. This very young, beautiful woman, she committed suicide. Now some people would be asking, why? Why would she do such a thing? She was 30 years old. She was 2 years ago won Miss USA or Miss Universe. So she was extremely beautiful. She was a lawyer. She was a popular TV personality as well, interviewer. But somehow she was not happy. She was not content. Why? Because in this material world, there's not enough to feed our greed, to meet our greed. Krishna will always give us what we need. But our greed will never be fulfilled, no matter how much we acquire in this material world. And we see the greatest example of that, Hiranyakashipu. He had the whole material universe, everything in this universe, but still he was not satisfied. So similarly, we can take a lesson from that we will not be satisfied if we try to invest our happiness in material prosperity. Now, we're not saying that you just go outside naked and have nothing. No, we have certain amount of material needs. But the point of life shouldn't be material happiness, is the point that the Bhagavatam tells us. You need as much as you need to be happy, according to our karma, our psychophysical natures. We may require more, we may require less, but just whatever situation we may need to be in, to be peaceful, relatively peaceful, the remainder of the time, the remaining balance of time should be focused on Krishna consciousness. This is the point. And this is what the acharyas are feeling. This is the burning desire in the heart of Srila Prabhupada, in the heart of our gurus, of our spiritual masters, in the heart of the sadhus, is that they're looking at the living conditioned souls. They're looking at the living entities in this world, especially the human beings, and they're saying, please don't waste your time in sense gratification. Please utilize your time for Krishna consciousness, because this will actually make you happy. When we're telling someone, please take this book, please chant Hare Krishna, it's not for our benefit. I will get nothing, or I will derive no benefit out of you chanting Hare Krishna. It is for your own benefit that you will chant. I will continue chanting. Or myself, I am okay. I'll chant Hare Krishna. I'll take prasadam. I'll read the books. But we're pleased just begging you. I was hearing some lectures of Prabhupada recently, and Prabhupada is just, and he's given an address in 1970 in Los Angeles at the Rath Yatra in San Francisco. And Prabhupada said, please, I'm just begging you to please take up this process of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is a pure devotee. He came down from Goloka Vrindavan to bring back as many people as possible with him. And he's standing on that stage, he's giving the class, and he's just begging the audience, please take up this process of Krishna consciousness. Please chant this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And we saw when Prabhupada was asked by a reporter, do you see yourself as a guru of the whole world? Prabhupada bent his head humbly, folded his hands and said, no, I see myself as a servant of the whole world. So this is the mentality of the Mahajans. They're thinking that they're just servants of Krishna. They're fully cognizant of their actual position, that they're just servants of Krishna, and they're trying to help their forgotten brothers and sisters, because we're all sons of Krishna. As Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, we're all his sons and daughters. So those who are more enlightened to the fact of who they are, they will try to help others. So this is the sub and substance of the Sankirtan movement. That Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in anxiety. He's seeing that so many souls are misusing their lives. And so he's in so much anxiety. Advaita Acharya was on the bank of the Ganges and he was shedding tears. My dear Lord, no one can help these people but you. And so he was offering tulasi and water to Shalagram. And he was begging Krishna, you please come and help these people. Paritranaya sadhu nam vinasaya chadushkitam starma samstapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. Krishna comes again and again to protect the sadhus and to annihilate the miscreants. Now in this Kali Yuga, one may ask, where are the demons? In Satya Yuga, it was easy. We can see the demons and the devotees were on different planets. In Treta Yuga, demons and devotees were on different continents. In Dwapara Yuga, demons and devotees were in the same family. Right? But in Kali Yuga, the demon and the devotee is in the same person, in the same body. The demon and the devotee is in your heart. So we have demoniac tendencies inside of us. But Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, has come with the astra of the Harinam, the Mahamantra. And the book distribution is an expansion of the Mahamantra. It is Krishna's flute song. These books are actually Krishna's flute playing, calling the devotees, please come and join this eternal rasa dance. One time, Srila Prabhupada was writing a letter. His Holiness Rameshwar Maharaj at the time was giving class, and he was giving a realization that book distribution and the devotees going out on Harinam and distributing books, it was the same as engaging in the Rasa Lila dance. And so the devotees in the room were like, whoa, wait a second. This sounds a little funky. This sounds a little off. So immediately one devotee wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada. Wrote a whole letter, some pages explaining different things. And in that letter, she also made this point that Rameshwar Prabhu was preaching, and he gave this example that the Harinam Sankirtan and book distribution was just like engaging in the Rasa Lila dance. And so Prabhupada wrote back, he answered all our points, and when he got to this point, he said, yes, this is the correct understanding. So this is the correct understanding. This is Krishna. This Sankirtan movement, engaging in the Sankirtan movement, is the most intimate service to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada has said that this is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we will always have customers for our books. So we have this opportunity. Srila Prabhupada already worked so hard. In one letter, Prabhupada writes, he says, please do not become ungrateful. Please, you cannot say that I have not given you anything. I've given you all these books. I've given you all these temples. I've given you all these deities to worship. So now, at least try to maintain what I've given you. If you cannot expand, at least try to maintain. So on our side, if we're at least a little bit grateful of the mercy that Srila Prabhupada has bestowed upon us, we would dedicate our time to reading his books and to helping others also come in contact with Srila Prabhupada's books. Now, before I go on to speaking more about book distribution, I'd just like to make a couple points about reading the books. Now, Srila Prabhupada has said a few times, one time in San Francisco or Los Angeles, he was on the West Coast. His Holiness Keshav Bharati Maharaj, at that time in Grihastha, he had an apartment and the Sankirtan devotees were there. Srila Prabhupada was there. And Prabhupada, they were so excited, all the Sankirtan devotees. They were telling Prabhupada, they were telling their scores, how many books they distributed. And Srila Prabhupada was just sitting there. He was quite happy, hearing the book distribution scores. But then all of a sudden, Prabhupada became very grave. And you can hear a pin drop in the room. It became very silent. Then Srila Prabhupada looked at his devotees and he pointed at them. And he said, I have not written these books just for you to distribute them. I have written these books for you for you to read them, become pure devotees, and go back home, back to Godhead. So this is a very important point. But Srila Prabhupada has also written these books for us. The first person you have to give Krishna consciousness to is to yourself every day. So leading then into the 4 laws of book distribution. Does anybody know the first law that's on the code, that's on the call? The first law of book distribution?
Get books.
That's good one. Good sadhana. Who was that? Param Karuna Prabhu. Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my obeisances.
Please accept my Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
To be speaking in front of Parama Karuna Prabhu. He should be giving this class, not me.
It's great to hear from you. Hare Krishna.
So, yes, your sadhana must be strong. This is the first part. This is the first law of book distribution. So every morning we should wake up And as I mentioned in the beginning of the class, when Prabhupada asks, when His Grace Savas Prabhu had asked Prabhupada, how can we expand Bhakti Distribution? Prabhupada said, if you chant your 16 rounds in one sitting and chant Sakaswami Astakam. So this is one thing that I've learned now from traveling for almost a month with His Grace Navina Nirada Prabhu, who we know is one of the top in book distribution in the whole world. He does that every morning. He's like laser beam focus. Wakes up, chants his 16 rounds, then reads for 1 hour. And then he's ready to go. Of course, we take a little breakfast and then we go out to the Shri book. So this will lead, because what happens is when we have strong sadhana, we fortify ourselves and we have strong faith. And with that faith, we can convince others. Because ultimately, when you're approaching someone and you're there and you're looking at the person face to face, what they're going to be looking for is to see if you're convinced. They're going to see if you're actually convinced about the product that you're selling them. Now, and I used to be a salesman. I sold cars, Hondas. So I'm a little biased towards Hondas. If you need a car, get a Honda. Just kidding. But this is the thing. The thing is that's what they would teach us. That unless you're 100% convinced about the product that you're selling, you won't be able to convince others to take it. So you have to give yourself Krishna consciousness every single day. Chant your rounds attentively, sincerely, and then read the books. Read Prabhupada's books attentively with no other distractions. Right now we're here in Viraha Bhavan, serving His Holiness Satrup Maharaj. And like I was mentioning before, he's an acharya. He is one who's leading by example. Every day he hears from Prabhupada's books for 2.5 hours. 1 hour during breakfast from 7:30 to 8:30, and then for another hour and a half during lunch from 1 to 2:30. Maharaj is hearing from Prabhupada's books. And so he's doing Zoom calls. He's getting disciples from all over the world to get on board. And the disciples here, you can see, they're in so much ecstasy, the devotees, because every day they're hearing from Prabhupada's books so attentively, so nicely. And so many services are going on so nicely here. Deity is being worshipped nicely. So much prasadam is being made. Devotees are coming, taking prasadam. This is the culture. This is the Vaishnava culture. So the second law of book distribution, as Prabhu mentioned, is get books. Because you can't distribute books you don't have. So my Guru Maharaj, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, mentions that they did studies in all the big universities, all the Ivy League schools. And the study that was done. Maybe Devik, you can help us out. There was a study done at all the major universities. And if you don't have any books, how many books can be distributed?
One or two of what you have in your hand.
Well, if you don't have any books, you can't distribute any books. 0 is the answer. So therefore, you need books to distribute. So 2 is get books. That is the second law of book distribution. Number 3 is the more you show, the more you sell. So this is something that's my Guru Maharaj remembers one time he was with Vijay Prabhu at the Rath Yatra in San Diego, or in San Francisco, or in LA, one of the somewhere in California. LA. So he was with him in LA, and he had set up a book table. And in the book table, he put up a Srimad-Bhagavatam set. He set up the whole set right on the table. And everyone that was coming that said they had Bhagavad Gita already, Vijay Prabhu would show them Srimad-Bhagavatam. Immediately, he would show them Srimad-Bhagavatam. And my Guru Maharaj was thinking, why is he doing this? I think maybe it's a waste of time. He said, but after some time went by, he looked back and the Bhagavatam set was gone. And what happened? He went to Vijay. What happened? He said, someone bought the set. So this is a testament to the more you show, the more you sell. And when we're out on book distribution also, we usually stack people up with books in their hands. Parama Karuna Prabhu knows this very well. Parameshwar Prabhu is also applying this. The boys in Christian life in Atlanta are applying this method where they're showing many books at once. And people get excited. And His Grace Navina Nirada Prabhu was mentioning how when they were doing books in Germany, the people when they were coming over from East Berlin to West Berlin, and the government was giving them 100, whatever it is, 100 Deutschmarks. They were showing the people big stacks of books, and they were like, and the people would ask, how much is it? And they would say it's 100 Deutschmarks, and they said, oh, those books for 100 Deutschmarks. Here you go. So right away they would spend their 100 Deutschmarks on a stack of Prabhupada's books. So yes, the more you show, the more you sell. This is a principle. People like to buy things in packages, like bananas, right? Who goes to the store and just buys one banana? Nobody. You usually buy a whole stack of bananas, a whole pack of them. In Ecuador and in many South American countries, they cut a whole stick of the banana. You get all the bananas there together. So similarly, people like to get sets of books. Encyclopedia Britannica, which was sold as a big set, was like the number one selling set. People will go, these encyclopedia salesmen will go door to door and sell sets of Encyclopedia Britannica. So similarly, Prabhupada has given us a whole library of books. So we can package them up. One package that I personally like to do is Bhagavad Gita, Science of Self-Realization, Higher Taste. I call this the Mind, Body, and Soul pack. And people really much like that. So this is, you can come up with different combinations of yourself, whatever books you have in stock there. Come up with different little sets. You can tie them in ribbons. You can have them loose and just stack people up when you get up to them. Different methods. But this is the principle is the more you show, the more you sell. So we should have different varieties of books available, and they should be on you. So this goes into the fourth point. The fourth law of book distributions is you must organize. Organization is extremely important in book distribution. As many devotees know, especially devotees that are in traveling Sankirtan, in some place, sometimes you have to arrange that there be books at a certain point. Like recently, when Navina Nirda, Prabhu, and myself were heading up from South Carolina to New York, by the time we were in New Jersey, we were practically out of books. The van was empty. But luckily, about a week and a half before, I had made a call to the BBT and asked for a shipment of books to be delivered to Brooklyn Temple. So we were going to be spending a few days in Brooklyn Temple. And then just a day before we left again on traveling Sankirtan, the books arrived. And so again, we restocked. So it takes some organization. It takes someone should be responsible there in ISKCON Chicago to make sure that devotees, when they're going out, they have the proper equipment, they have the bags, they have the books that are tied up, the spots are thought out beforehand, the methods that the payments are going to be received, whether it's PayPal or Cash App or Venmo or Zelle. Everyone should be in the know. Everyone should know what's going on. Everyone should be ready to offer all these different options to people to receive books. One thing Parameshwar likes to do also is ask for gift cards. So you can probably get in contact with him and he can tell you how he also gets cash for those gift cards that he asks for. So all these different methods, we should be armed and ready to give people the opportunity to purchase Srila Prabhupada's books in different ways. One thing I've also, maybe in the Chicago area, this may be effective, especially among the African-American community, which is actually the most favorable right now. When you bring them Prabhupada's books, you talk about yoga, meditation, vegetarianism, they're ready, they're ripe, they want this knowledge. So the devotees should be out there. They should be ready to give these books to them. They should be ready to accept them. Should be ready to follow up. Should be ready to have new programs for them so they can be guided along their journey. And one thing also, food stamps. These are some things you can do. If you're working any Walmarts or something like that, you can ask, so you have any food stamps? Make them buy some, or ask them to buy some fruits or water or whatever for Krishna, for the devotees, and you can offer it. And this way you can exchange for books also. So yeah, so this is the 4 laws of book distribution. Your sadhana must be strong. 2, get books. 3, the more you show, the more you sell. And 4, you must organize. So my Guru Maharaj mentions that management means to manage the results of our book distribution. So therefore, if we're going out distributing books, we should understand also what is the next phase, the next thing after we've distributed a book to a favorable person. is that we should get their contact. We should follow up with them, get their phone number, get their name, email, etc., and write to them the next day. Thank them for, for taking the books. If we understand how much effort has gone from that book being printed to that book to go into that person's hand, then we should take a little effort to also then cultivate that person that has gone out of their way also to take some of their hard-earned money and give it to you for Prabhupada's books. One thing in New York, we have a program that's on Tuesdays during the week for newcomers, because as we know, in many ISKCON temples nowadays, it's just too much for new people, for Westerners on a Sunday, bash, a Sunday feast bash, full of Indians, and there's all this stuff going on. RIT's going on. They're singing Gaur RT. People walk into the temple for the first time. They may just be bewildered about what's going on. But you can do a program during the week when it's quiet, nothing else is going on, and you just do some simple classes, introductions, to Bhagavad Gita or something like that, simple topics, and just take your time with the people. Have some nice prasadam that they can understand. You can make some pasta, some nice things, nice drink, nice sweet, apple crumble, something like that, something that they can relate to, and then just talk to them, hear them out, and connect them to Prabhupada's books. Ultimately, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help facilitate an environment that people can come into and then become proficient in reading Prabhupada's books. Trying to connect them to Prabhupada's books and then help them take up the process of Krishna consciousness. That means we should teach them how to chant japa. A lot of people, they're into meditation, quote unquote meditation. Do they know what meditation means? No, most people don't know what meditation means. So we should be ready to teach them. This is japa meditation. This is the most powerful form of meditation. We should be able to talk to them. We should have beads available to share with them. People love this stuff. They love beads. They love to, if you show them how to chant japa. And just one thing I've been doing is I tell people, okay, we're going to start the 30-day japa challenge. So for 30 days, you'll have to chant at least one round. And then at the end, if you've done it, you'll get a free book. So a lot of people have taken this up. There's just one particular, the last time I did it, four newcomers signed up, brand new Westerners, and they signed up for the japa challenge. So they did one round for 1 month. And the thing is, then it becomes a part of them. It said that anything you can do every single day for a whole month becomes a habit. So once they made that a habit, then, they'll get some taste. They'll start getting some taste. They'll start seeing how the chanting is making them peaceful, because that's the result of chanting Hare Krishna, is you become more peaceful. And then gradually, we can continue to guide them. All of you should be ready to be a guru, actually. All of you should be prepared. All of you should thoroughly learn the science of Krishna and should be ready to teach others. All of us can be guru in whatever capacity we can. All of us are following the 4 regs. All of us are chanting Hare Krishna. So we could teach others to do it also. So this is what the Krishna consciousness movement means. It means that we give Krishna consciousness to ourselves and then we give it to others as well. And in this way, we expand the movement. And gradually, more devotees will come. And gradually, this golden age of Lord Chaitanya will be more and more manifest. Where there'll be more and more kirtan parties, more and more book distribution happening all over the world. More and more prasadam being distributed. And in this way, devotees will constantly just be in bliss. Ananda Bhudi Vardhanam. This is the ever-expanding ocean of bliss, is the Sankirtan movement. So just some practical things. When I distribute books, there's different methods, there's different lines you can say. But ultimately, the most important thing is that devotees have to be sincere. In 1975, when devotees were in Vrindavan, and 2 book distribution parties were there, and both of them had come up with certain methods on how to distribute books. And both of them were staunch on proving that their method was the best. So of course they were arguing back and forth. No, if you do it like this, it's the best. No, if you do it like this, is the best. I'm telling you, no, this way is more effective. No, this way is much more effective. So finally he said, okay, we'll bring it to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada will tell us which one's the more effective, which obviously will be the method I'm doing. So both of them were thinking like this. So they went up to Srila Prabhupada and they presented their case, like two lawyers before Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada being the expert judge. Prabhupada heard them out, heard both their cases, and finally he spoke. And he said, well, actually, the most important thing is that you teach the devotees to become sincere. And then with one sweeping motion, he swept his right hand across. You teach the devotees to become sincere. And then as his palm landed on his heart, he said, and then the master within the heart will teach him what to say. So I'll give you some lines that I use today. But again, it's going to be individual. It's spontaneous depending on the person you're speaking to. But it's okay. It's good to have just some few guides you can go by. So first and foremost, when I distribute books, there's a couple verses that I like to say before I start my distribution. One is 10:10 Bhagavad Gita, Tesam Satata Yuktanam, Vajatam Priti Purvakham, Dadhami Bhuti Yogam Tam Yena Mamapayantite. And Krishna says, see, to those who are devoted to constantly serving me with love, I give the intelligence by which they can come to me, which I understand also to mean to those who are constantly devoted to doing book distribution. Krishna will give you the lines to say when you're out there speaking. Also, there's another verse, Katasana Yasmin Tuskaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismite Viparitam Sat Chaitanya Nanamitam. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 14, verse number 1. And it says here that things that are impossible to do become very easy if one remembers Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But if one does not remember the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then even easy things become impossible to do. To this Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I offer my most humble respects. And basically, we understand when we go out there to distribute books, we're just Krishna's instrument. We're the instrument of the Prabhupada. We're the instrument of our spiritual master, trying to deliver the goods. You see, like a bank teller, he's not the owner of the bank. He's not the owner of the money in the bank. He's just the person delivering the goods. If you go to withdraw money from the bank, the teller, if you say, teller, give me 1,000, the teller will give you the 1,000. It's not that the teller owns that $1,000. So similarly, it's not that this mercy is coming from me. No, this is Krishna's mercy. And somehow or other, I'm being allowed to be used as an instrument to deliver the mercy to this person. So similarly, we should see ourselves as just an instrument. And this will protect us from becoming puffed up, thinking, oh, I'm so great. I am such a big book distributor. I did 50 books today. You see me. You should bow down to me, actually. You should worship me. Krishna says, Manmana Bhava Mavakto. That's Krishna saying that, but actually you should worship me instead. You see, no, this is not the mentality we want. We want to also tell people, you worship Krishna. This is why Prabhupada's Gita is so effective, as it is. Because Prabhupada says, worship Krishna. Krishna says, worship me. Prabhupada says, worship Krishna. So similarly, we say, worship Krishna. So this is a stack. These are my main weapons nowadays on book distribution. Bhagavad Gita as it is, Science of Self-Realization, and Higher Taste. I very much like this stack of 3. And I mostly distribute these nowadays. And when I start, I usually start with Bhagavad Gita. I put the Gita in their hand. Right? Well, before then, I'll stop the person with a simple line. I'll usually say, we're stopping all the nice people today. Or, hey, you look so peaceful. Or, we're stopping all the nice people. Something along those lines. We're stopping all the peaceful people. And, people right away, they feel very flattered. They feel very touched. Oh, you recognize me. Oh, someone's talking to me. And, they feel very nice. And then I ask them, what's your secret? How are you so peaceful? Or how are you so nice? Because this is the hook. They say that the most powerful punctuation point in the English language is the question mark. There's a hook. You hook them. Because then if you ask them how, then they'll have to tell you. They'll say, okay, I do this or I do that. And whatever they say, you'll just, wow, check this out. We're sharing these books with everyone. Put it in their hand. And then they'll say, and then we usually start right away. I say, oh, look, this is a nice book on karma, yoga, meditation. Teaches us how to get rid of stress. Have you ever heard of stress before? And usually they'll laugh. They'll say, yeah, of course I've heard of stress. And they say, look, this book was actually read by Gandhi, Emerson, Thoreau, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Albert Einstein, Malcolm X, Tupac even read the Bhagavad Gita. And then you can go into saying different things. One thing I've said recently is that this book teaches when we align the mind, body, and soul, we can become the best version of ourselves. Some people will show the pictures. You can do that. There's a picture showing about karma. There's the pictures that show the Sanskrit, actually, which is very nice. Because sometimes I like to ask people, have they heard of this language called Sanskrit? And many of them would say no. And then we show them picture in the smaller Gita has, anyway, you can show them Sanskrit. And then you can say, have you ever heard of karma? People say, yes, of course. You can show them this picture and say, see, what goes around comes around. And then I'll go to the science of self-realization. I'll put the science of self-realization in their hand. And there's a little excerpt on the back that says, the science of self-realization opens up the secrets of the self within, nature, and the universe, and the supreme self within and without. So I usually say this book talks about when you meditate, you open up the secrets of the self within, nature, and the universe. And so, just a little talk about that. And then I'll ask them, lately what I say is, and I put the higher taste in their hand, and then I say, you look like a good cook. And they start laughing. They say, oh, yes, I'm a very good cook. Or some will say, oh, no, I don't know how to cook. So whatever they say yes. And you tell them, oh, great, look, the rest of the people. And they say, no, I'm a terrible cook. Oh, great, look, this book will teach you how to cook. Put it in their hand. And then, right in the front here, it says, a guide to gourmet vegetarian cooking and a karma-free diet. So I tell them in this book, it'll mention how when we eat, we don't just nourish ourselves mentally, but also physically, spiritually, and emotionally. So we have to be very careful what we put into our body. You've heard the saying, you are what you eat. Yes, it's true, isn't it? You are what you eat. So then sometimes I'll tell them, have you heard of a person named Einstein? They say, yes, of course I've heard of Einstein. I say, do you think he was a smart guy? Of course, yeah, he was very smart. So I say, look what he said here. And I'll show them the quote inside, where Albert Einstein says, nothing will benefit human health and increase the chances of survival of life on Earth as much as the evolution to a vegetarian diet. And then I say, ponder that. And many say, wow, that's very nice. Because sometimes you meet people that they're into environmentalists, they're into, they want to become a doctor. So all these different things, vegetarian diet, you can talk about how it affects any one of those things. So yeah, that is it. And then we ask them for a donation. And we say, these books are not for sale. We just ask for a donation. And to cover the printing costs. You can say a number, depending on who's in front of you. Sometimes we like to say, just to cover the printing costs, it costs us $11 to print. You have the soft cover, Gita, SSR, and Higher Taste. We can say it costs us $11 to print, costs us $15, or you can say most people give $20. Be as generous as you like. And I usually throw a joke in there. I say, just try to keep it on their $1 million. And they laugh and they say, oh yeah, of course, I'll try to keep it on their $1 million. So yeah, that's it. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So remember, keep your sadhana strong. Get books. The more you show, the more you sell. You must organize. And yeah, give yourself Krishna consciousness. Absorb yourself in Prabhupada's books. And then it'll be natural. You'll just feel like I have to go out today. I have to go share this with someone. Like, man, what I read today was just too nectar, and I just don't want to keep it for myself. I want everyone to have this. I want everyone to be able to, drown in this ocean, this Sankirtan, this ocean of nectar, this ocean of devotion, nectar of devotion. Okay, so now we'll have some questions. I saw that Shruti Priya had her hand up first, and then she put it back down. Do you still want to ask a question, Shruti Priya, Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, such a wonderful session to hear from you. And I feel so enlivened. It's been a while I spoke to you, but it's like all coming back and I'm ready to go. Hit the payment. But I had my hand up for the question on, you said we should get books in bunches, right? and in packages and like bunches of books. And my question was actually, what books should we take and what different kind of bunches should we make, right? But you answered the question right away with one of the bunch. But do you have more recommendations?
I mean,
What other?
you can try out different books. I mean, for the most part, generally the Bhagavad Gita and SSR, I mean, that should be a part of the stack. And then you can add different books, you can take away books, you can just be creative with it. In Atlanta, they have the Saptarishi, 7 books. You can make the Sat Goswami Astakam, 6 books, 8 books. Sat Goswami stack, 6 books. You can make the Pancha Tattva, 5 books. It's unlimited. You can play around with it depending on what books you have in stock, what books you want to get rid of. There's no limit. It's unlimited. You can make as many or as little stacks as you want. So, but I was saying that this stack of 3 is pretty effective, and I call it the mind, body, and soul kai. Generally we want people to get Bhagavad Gita and SSR. These are like 2 foundational books for anyone's Krishna consciousness. I mean, Prabhupada wrote a letter to Janani Vasprabhu in 1972, I believe. I have to find the exact letter, but I can find it and I can send it to you. That anybody who reads our Nectar Devotion Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Bhagavad Gita as it is in Krishna book, will surely become a Krishna conscious person.
Wow.
So, so you can put those 4 books in the pack and sell it. It's unlimited. You make it different things. You call that the Chatur Vyuha. Something like that.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And also another question comes to my mind. We also sometimes think of giving some candy, or I've seen people give out incense stick. What works better than the other?
Prasadam is great. I mean, insect sticks are great. That's something that a lot of people are into nowadays, into incense and kind of that Eastern vibe. Definitely Prasadam is great. In New York, we're doing oatmeal raisin cookies. That seems to be a very popular hit. Oatmeal raisin cookies. And so we package them up individually and we give them out. I mean, different things, as long as there's something. I was just hearing recently some anecdotes about prasadam, and Prabhupada would make sure there was always prasadam. Even 26 Second Avenue in the beginning, Prabhupada just had an apple. Prabhupada would just get an apple and offer it, and that would be the prasadam. Or sometimes Prabhupada would just have the devotees offer some like macadamia nuts, and then give everyone one macadamia nut as they were leaving. The point is, we should give them some prasadam also, because sometimes even if they don't take a book, they'll take prasadam. And then also taking the prasadam will purify them, so then they'll be able to understand what's in the book. Another point I forgot to mention is teaching people the Mahamantra, which I also sometimes I'm lax on myself, but it's something that's crucial, because the Mahamantra, chanting the Mahamantra will unlock the knowledge in the books for the people. Because as they chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, their consciousness will become purified, and they can read what's in the books, they can understand them more. I mean, yesterday we had lunch with His Grace Ravindra Sarup Prabhu, who lives just across the street. And he was saying also the same thing. I've been hearing the same realizations from many senior Prabhupada disciples, is that just reading Prabhupada's books over and over and over again. And then when they come to the book again after some time, they're just seeing a whole bunch of things they didn't see before. Because Prabhupada's books, they're not just material, they're spiritual. And therefore, depending on our level of consciousness, they will reveal more things to us. So people will have the same experience. They'll read the book once, and then they chant Hare Krishna, they chant more and more Hare Krishna, and then they come to the book again, and there'll be whole new things. There'll be no things there. The instructions that we need to hear to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. So we'll keep having these aha moments, and then we can give people the opportunity to connect to these. Prabhupada said, "This is my miracle." That they said, "Swamiji, can you show us a miracle?" Swami Bhakti-Vedanta, can you tell us what miracle you have done? He said, "Yes, look, I've turned all these Westerners into Vaishnavas. They've given up meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex, and they're chanting Hare Krishna, they become Vaishnavas. That is my miracle." So similarly, the potency is still there. Prabhupada gave us a process that works. So therefore, we're applying it ourselves, and we can help others to apply it as well and see the miracle before our eyes.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Deepak Prabhu? Daivik Prabhu, sorry.
Yes, yes, that is fine. I just wanted to share this one comment. I think Suripur Mataji already asked that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us like how to distribute the Saptarshi set? Like because like I have also been to Atlanta with Mosa Prabhu.
Yeah.
So like me and him were going there for a Saptarshi set. So I was always having a hard time doing that. So I was always doing the Bhakta set. So like, can you tell us how to distribute Saptarshi?
I mean, there's, like I was mentioning before, it's just, I have, there's different ways devotees will do it. The way I did it was, I was just briefly explain each book, just give like a little description of each book. So like we used to set up the Saptarishi with, now sometimes they're putting different books because, depending on what's available, what's run out. But the original way we set it up was Science of Self-Realization, Journey of Self-Discovery,
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita as it is, Krishna book, Nectar Devotion, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.1. So there's the 7 books. So the Science Self-Realization, I would say the same thing I said there. With this book talks about when we meditate, we open up the secret to the self within, nature, and the universe. Journey of Self-Discovery. This book talks about material problems, spiritual solutions, and how we can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. We have to see it from a higher perspective. Bhagavad Gita talks about karma, yoga, meditation, how to get rid of stress. It was read by, Gandhi, Emerson, Thoreau, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I used to say Will Smith, but right now the Will Smith's name is a little controversial because of what happened. So I noticed that sometimes it slips out and some people say, okay, he's not really a good example right now, So, you can adjust it accordingly. Then I go to Krishna book and I just say straight out, this book talks about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, I'm with it. Yeah, Krishna. Yeah, he seems like a cool guy. And then Nectar Devotion, this book talks about spiritual emotions on a level where there's no envy, no hate, no exploitation, just pure love. And then the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, this talks about a great saint who traveled all over India teaching this knowledge. And then the Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.1, you could say this book teaches us how we can clear the mind of illusion and see things properly.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah, I think I have all the books. I am only missing Nectar of Devotion, so I can probably create.
Yeah, but again, it's not that you have to have all those 7 books exactly, to do it. Like right now, I think in Atlanta they ran out of some of the books, and sometimes they put a reminder in there. It's just depending on the book that's in there, you can give a little explanation and explain it like that.
Okay. I have one more question.
Yes.
So like if like in your area, like if you are the only person, like how could you distribute books alone? Like what locations can you go and how do you do it? Like,
well, I mean, there's different places. I mean, recently we've been going to the universities. I mean, in Chicago, I don't know the Chicago area so much, but I know in like Brooklyn, for example, just outside the temple on the sidewalk, there's people walking by, they go into work. You can go to the local metro stations, wherever there's people, anything that, one time Mahotsa Prabhu was my Guru Maharaj was asking us some questions, and Mahotsa said, anything that moves, I try. So similarly, we can apply. Go to the busiest places, anything that moves. I mean, one realization I've been getting, or you can say one revelation, from traveling with Navina Prabhu, he starts early in the morning, his book distribution. He's out there. So if it's possible for you to go early in the morning, some days, and that's a good time, because generally people that are out early in the morning, it's more still the passion hasn't kicked in as much. People are more in the mode of goodness, or the mode of goodness is more influencing on them, and they'll be willing to stop, even though it may be less people. There'll be more quality people, so you'll be able to stop and maybe get some good interactions in. If you go, I don't know, downtown Chicago, that you go some area where there's some people.
all right.
Prabhu, I have one question if nobody else has.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the purport, Srimad-Bhagavatam 10.2.47. Is that right?
37.
10 to 37. And the last line still strikes my mind, which is book distribution is samadhi.
Yeah.
Could you please expand on that?
Samadhi. So, yeah, what happens is when you become absorbed in book distribution, you lose track of time. And actually, you actually can start feeling the bliss a little bit. I mean, I don't want to say I've been absorbed in the bliss, but I've gotten glimpses of it. When you're just absorbed in book distribution and you're going from person to person and people are taking books, you kind of get into the zone. I guess this would be like samadhi. You kind of get into that zone where your ego is not in the way anymore. And you're just thinking, okay, I got to get these books out because it's going to benefit people. And then you just start. And when you really start thinking, okay, I'm doing this because I want to benefit people. I'm doing this as a service. And then Krishna starts to give mercy because this is Lord Chaitanya, again, like I mentioned, it's Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement. His mercy is constantly flowing. So Prabhupada would start his letters, right? All of Srila Prabhupada's letters, if you look at the letters, he would start the letters with, so-and-so, please accept my blessings. So one time in Vrindavan, I was there, His Grace Burijan Prabhu was giving class. And he said, so many times people will come up to me, Prabhuji, please give me your blessings, Prabhu. Please give me your blessings. And Burijan Prabhu said, people don't understand the blessings are already there. It's just, are you willing to accept the blessings? So Prabhupada would say, please accept my blessings. So that was the thing, is that we have to accept the blessings of Prabhupada, which means as soon as we decide, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this. Now, some days it's going to be hard. It's going to be grinding. Actually, most days it's grinding. But sometimes that mercy will come through and then you just, like 3 or 4 or 5 hours will go by. And then by the end of the 5 hours, you don't want to stop. You're just like, I just want to keep going. I want to keep distributing books. So sometimes we'll get glimpses of that. And of course, and as we go on in book distribution, as we mature in devotional service, those periods will become longer and longer and longer, these samadhi periods. So, I mean, now that I'm distributing with Navina Nirapu, it's like a switch. You see, it goes on, and then it's just like, he's just there. It's just like a machine. Guru Maharaj mentioned how, on the back of the mind, we have a switch. That's, the mind, the materialistic mind, we just shut it off, and go for it. And so, yeah, you kind of enter into this state where you're just like, yeah, it's just blissful. It's just blissful.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That was profound. Any other questions from anybody else? So, Prabhu, before we depart, your master session today, what you just went through last 1.5 hours, we are so grateful for your time. For everybody here, I'd like to just quickly mention, which I haven't done yet, the introduction of His Grace Gopal Champudas. So Gopal Champudas is well known to the devotees here, good friend and mentor and god brother of us as well. And he's right now sitting in the home of His Holiness Satsarva Maharaj, the author of Lilamrita. So Gopal Champudas was born in New York, and he came in contact with Krishna consciousness via Srila Prabhupada books. For the past 7 years, he has been serving the New York City Harinam as a book distributor, and periodically also goes on traveling Sankirtan. He is a disciple of His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. He has distributed thousands of books all over the country. So thank you again, Gopal Prabhu, for your wonderful mercy here. I have one personal request, if you don't mind, if I may say.
Yeah.
I just got a glimpse of His Holiness Satsarva Maharaj when you were talking. Would you mind calling him?
That was
just?
I
see. Oh,
that
okay. Okay, I see. Is Maharaj not able to at least give a darshan to all of us, or?
He's upstairs now.
I see.
I don't want to.
Okay, that's okay.
But I can request him. I mean, what I can do is I can get the link for the reading, because he does read we'll have lunch at 1 o'clock, and then at some point during that time they broadcast the reading on Zoom, and then he comes on personally and reads also. So I can send you the link. You can share it with the devotees.
Sure, Prabhu. I'll share with all the book distribution devotees here. Yep, absolutely.
So, Hare Krishna Prabhu, I just want to quickly say thanks to Gopal Sambha Prabhu, especially, for me as a neophyte in book distribution, uh, uh, distributing one book is like it's like a magic. If somehow somebody takes one book, and then all of a sudden at some point I heard from his grace Vaisheshika Prabhu that you should distribute books like in bunches like bananas, and I was going bananas really, like how can you distribute in bunches? Here we are trying to distribute one book, but somehow after the last few years of seeing you on the NASLT team and other websites with your name, I can always imagine like a person standing next to you in a stack of books, not even bunches, like the person's height tall worth of books. So that's who you are to me, person who is empowered, like Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravartana. So I feel like you are that empowered soul, who can distribute not just one book, not just in bunches, but people's height worth of books, tall stacks of high-rise books. So I, I benefited so much from hearing from you today, and many of the points I keep thinking when Vaiseshik Prabhu is saying. So it was like almost like associating with Vaiseshika Prabhu through his Vani and his instructions. So it was very enlivening, and thank you for blessing us through your association today. And we hope we could see you in person hopefully sometime, and be of some service to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your kind words, Madhu Mangal Prabhu. Please keep pouring your blessings, and I'm going to beg for the blessings. If your mercy there, but please, I'll have to beg.
Nice Tulsi plant I see in this side. Gopal Chandra Prabhu, thank you so much for giving this wonderful class to the ISKCON devotees, Chicago. Thank you so much.
Prabhu, is it possible if I could get your email or contact information?
Yes, you can ask Prabhu. Famous Aurora Prabhu, he can give it to you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I do have to go now, but I was very happy and enlivened to see all of you, and hopefully one day I can make my way over to Chicago. Let's see if I get a visa. I have to get a visa to leave New York. So if they give me a visa to leave New York to go to Chicago, then I will happily be there.
Definitely, Prabhu. We are looking forward to it in physical workshop maybe sometime. That would be great. So thank you again for your mercy and wonderful blessings here. And we will talk to you soon, okay? Thank you.